Hi, everybody. Well, whoever we have at this time, a couple of you there. Um, oh, just one moment, everyone. I am hearing myself through all sorts of different platforms here at the moment. We're streaming out to LinkedIn and YouTube and the Facebook page. So my apologies there. I was just hearing the 20-second delay or whatever we've got going on. I'm going to manage this the best I can because I do have a few different platforms running to manage any of your questions or comments and things that come up. So I have things open and let's see how we go. So thanks for joining me. It's been a long time since I've done a Q&A. I don't even remember, maybe a year or two. And I've had a few people send over their questions that they want to have answered for tonight. So we may be here for 30 minutes or 60 minutes, however long it takes. And feel free to put your questions in as they come up, if they come up, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So let's see where we roll out. I have had someone ask me just a few weeks ago what it is that I love about animal communication. And animal communication is kind of the key to the work that I do. So the medical intuition, the energy work, and the missing animals investigation, and just general communicating with animals. That is, animal communication is kind of the base for all of the things that I do with that work. So what I love about it, it's an interesting question because I probably don't really think about that too often, but I really there are a few different aspects to it, I guess, and one of them particularly is someone's just told me they can't hear me. I think you can hear me on Facebook, so I'm not too sure. If anyone's out there, if you can just give me a thumbs up or something like that to let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. I can hear myself on Facebook if I turn that volume up, so I think I'm all good there. What do I love about animal communication? When I think about it, I remember. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Excellent. You can hear me. When I think about what I've learnt as a child, I was brought up in the country in Western Australia, and we had animals always. We had sheep, we had donkeys, we had chickens, we had dogs and cats. There was animals around me from the minute I was probably conceived. And so what I learnt in the way to care for animals and how to understand them and how to look after them is not really very much at all outside of what mum and dad taught me or what the neighbours taught us, or if there was something wrong with your pet and you went to the vet for that particular problem, you would learn about that particular problem. And then the same kind of thing as you got older. And back then, of course, there were libraries and there were schools and things like that, but there were no books, there were no, Google or there wasn't much information out there. So, and there was certainly no information out there from the animal's perspective. So we're getting a lot of information from science, from textbooks, from observing behavior and that type of thing, but we're not actually getting information from the animal's perspective. And I think it is quite different. So I've become very interested as an adult with the cats that I've had, cats that have been stolen, cats that have gone missing, animals that have been sick, animals that have been injured, animals that have been hit by cars. There's so many things that have happened for me through my lifetime of how to understand and how to look after animals. And when I look back on that, I knew bugger all pretty much. So it's been a great job to be in, I guess, to be able to communicate with an animal and ask them, how do you feel about XYZ? How do you feel physically? Where is that injury? How does that injury feel for you? As opposed to seeing an x-ray and seeing where it is and thinking about, well, that feels like that within myself because I've had a fractured femur or something like that in my past. So it must feel the same way. How does that medication feel for you? All of these types of things. So I love the fact that you can get the information, the answers, the feeling of something from an animal straight from their mouth, as opposed to looking at your animal and go, gee, they don't look very well, and wondering how that might feel and what's actually wrong with them. So, that's probably one of the big things. The other big thing about loving animal communication is educating the people so the animals can be better looked after in a way that they need, and not in a way that we guess. Because I know I'm not the only one out there that has just tried to understand what is going on with their pets based on observation and the things that we know. So it was a great question for me just to ponder, what is it? Why do I love animal communication? I love the education of it. I love it when I see clients or people actually get the aha moment of what's going on with their animal, and then just seeing their animal from a completely different perspective. The relationship changes. For any of you that have had animal communication session with anybody that does this work, or if you've communicated with your animals yourself, because you can do that, you will know that the relationship changes tenfold. It is completely different because you're seeing your animal as a far more sentient being, as opposed to that cute, fluffy little thing that sits over there and sits on your lap, or goes for a walk with you. So it's certainly a very rewarding job that I do. And if I can help an animal, then my day is made. So that is a good thing. So whoever asked me that question, I can't remember who it was now. So thank you. Sorry, thank you to all the people sending me messages that you can hear me. So thank you for that. Whoever asked me that question, it was a good question because it made me sit back after quite some time of doing this work and going, okay, why do I like this? And I think it's pretty important for anyone out there working. You have to actually enjoy what you do, otherwise the longevity is not there, and you can't be as useful and of service as you could be if you loved what you were doing. Alrighty, so I want to lead that into, actually, because I have a lot of people that ask me, this really interests me, but why would you want to ask your animal a question, and what would you ask them? They're not sick, they're not this, they're not that. Why would you want to ask them a question? What would you ask them? So I have a little list here, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is absolutely everything, absolutely anything you can think of, you can ask your animal. The same way you would ask your child or your parent or your partner or your cousin up the street. You ask them random questions. You can ask your animal random questions. And, it can be really useful for if they are injured or if they are sick. You can ask them if they're in pain. You can ask them where they feel it. You can ask them to show you in your body how it feels for you. They can show you their pain by showing it in your body. If they're on medication or supplements or some kind of thing, or if they've been vaccinated recently, you can ask them how that feels for them. And again, they can show that. They can either tell you, we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how animals communicate psychically, but they can tell you through vision, through feelings, through thoughts, and those types of things. So many questions from a health point of view you can ask them. Probably the number one area of interest that I get asked about different things is always leads to nutritional problems, because particularly with cats and dogs, we have domesticated them. They don't eat how they would eat if they were surviving out there on their own, for the most part. So they are struggling digestively, very much so. And so that is probably the biggest area of interest or concern, maybe, is nutrition for our animals. So you can ask them, what food do you like to eat? What's your favorite food? And bearing in mind, when you ask an animal what their favorite food is, they might show you, I don't know, ossobuco or something, because you've just slipped some off the table to them 5 years ago and they've remembered it. What their favorite food is not necessarily the foods that they should be eating. So that's kind of interesting as well. Be mindful of that. what's going on in the neighborhood? You know, we had a rather average older fellow that lived over our back fence in one of our houses, and he used to jump over our fence and poison our trees, chop them down. He had this strange idea that our boundaries weren't as they were in the council paperwork, that he actually, his boundary was over our side of the fence. So the fence didn't really mean anything. So what would happen is I would ask my cats, because my cats were very observant and they would be out there, and I would ask my cats, what's Murray up to today? And they would give me a little bit of a rundown on where he'd been and what he was up to. So forewarned, forearmed when you know what your neighbour's up to. So you can ask them, you know, if you need to, what your neighbours are up to, what's happening in the neighbourhood. Things like bringing a new animal into the house, that can be quite traumatic for the people, for the animals, for the new animal, for the old ones. So, you know, you can ask them how in advance, how would you feel if I brought in a new kitten or a new puppy? You know, how would you feel about that? And then you can find out, okay, once you get over that introduction and the fact that you don't really want them here, how do you think you would feel after that? So, you know, what they come up with straight away is not always how it's going to play out. And then you can negotiate a little bit with them. Now, one thing with animals is animal communication is really getting the why. Why are you behaving this way? Why are you doing that? Why? What's going on with that? It's not about saying, hey, I don't like you doing this behavior. Please stop. How do we work around you not doing that anymore? Because an animal, like a human, has their own personality and their own unique traits. And if they decide that, yes, I'm hearing you, mum, I'm hearing you, yeah, I've got it, I'm still going to do whatever I want anyway. So they always kind of listen to you and they hear you, but they will decide what they're going to do with that information. So animal communication is not always about having a conversation to change a behavior. And that would be so good, because if you've got a dog that barks, if you've got a dog that's got anxiety, or a cat that's got anxiety or not using their kitty litter, or, you know, whatever it is that is frustrating you, and you could just say to them, hey, Rufus, stop doing that, please. I don't like it. And they obeyed, and they did what you asked. It would be very easy. We'd have some very obedient animals. And using that word obedient is really just them doing what you want them to do. So remembering that they are their own little entities and their own little souls, that they will still do whatever it is that is good for them at the time. So Amanda Power, thank you for jumping in. Just going to put your question up here. You've got a rescue dog. And I feel his love so much. He came along when I lost my dog and horse within 3 weeks of each other. Was he sent to me from them? Look, that's really, Amanda, I'm going to just hold the phone on that one for a moment. If we get time, I'll have a look at that. So I'm not really doing animal communication per se today. I'm just going through some questions that people ask me, general questions about animal communication, about medical intuition, about energy healing and missing animals, and intuition in general. So I'm just going to hold that one back for a second, and I'll come back to that later if we have time. Thank you for the question though, Amanda. That's great. And it is a good question just in general. So I just want to come back to very quickly about, you know, the people that ask me, you know, what can I ask my animal? Why would I want an animal communication session? What can I ask them? And how long's a piece of string? Because the questions are limitless. But, you know, when you're looking at competitive animals like horses that are competing, or dogs that are doing agility training, or, you know, whatever they're doing, you can ask them so many things. How does that bit feel in your mouth? Is that working for you? No, that's not a good one. Is there another one that you would prefer? No, I don't actually want any of them. Well, okay, that's fine. You're going to have a bit. So here's the ones that are options. What is the best of these ones? And you can work through that. They can show you through images. They can tell you through words what bit they want to use. How does the saddle feel? Is the saddle fitting properly? What do we need to do to get on the podium? Because we're so close, but we're just not quite there. You can ask them, all those questions. What do you need from your rider? What do you need your rider to do better? Or what aren't they doing? What aren't they hearing from you? Or what do you need between the two of you to actually gel as a team? Because that's really important. You need to have whoever's riding or whoever's training your dog and the animal to actually really connect and gel together. So you can ask all those competition questions. You can ask your animal, do you actually like competing in this event? And you'll be surprised. There are a lot of animals that don't want to do what you want them to do. So, and then what do you do with the information when you get that? That's a whole different conversation, because the people, especially with horses, the people have an idea that they want this horse for racing, or they want them for, show jumping or whatever it is. And the horse is not really doing so great. They come and go. They're not consistent, whatever it is. They're actually not really interested in doing that event. They may not be interested in doing any other event either. They might be, but just try and take, sometimes when you're struggling with your animal for a period of time and you just can't seem to get things to click, perhaps just wonder whether they are actually interested. Is this your agenda? Are they interested in doing this? Maybe not. Maybe they want to try something else. How do you like to be ridden? What does it feel like to have you on my back? They're kind of interesting questions. We've covered off the health things, what your favorite thing is and all that sort of stuff. If you're just coming in for just a general conversation, you may just want to know, are they happy? What do they need from me? How is their food? Are they dehydrated? They don't drink very much. Are they dehydrated? Do they need anything? Is their food not nutritious enough, or it doesn't have enough water in it, or whatever it is, to keep them healthy? So many questions, many questions. And I'm just going to jump over here. I'm not missing anything there. Very good. All right. So how do animals communicate with us intuitively? So intuition, and just there's another question that keeps getting asked, and I know that many of you, if you're watching this on replay or if you're watching this now, you would have heard either me or many other people say that this work is not special. I don't have a gift, because I get asked often, is this a gift? Or, wow, you have such a gift. What a gift you have. That's amazing. This is not a gift. This is not a gift at all, in my opinion, because we are born this way. We are wired to be intuitive. I'm sure many of you will have had those moments where the phone rings and you know who's going to be on it before you answer it, or before you see it on your phone, which is how we do it now. But you don't you have all of these experiences right from young. We are very intuitive at a very young age, and then we kind of go to school and we learn things. We start to learn how to spell and mathematics and all of these analytical things, and we tend to sort of lose that other side of ourselves. If you're with someone for a long time, and I know this happens in my house with my husband, we will often start talking about the same thing at the same time, or I will start talking and he'll be about to say the same thing. We do this all day long. We come out wearing the same clothes, it's or not the same clothes, but the same colors. So intuition is very normal for everybody, but we lose it. Society knocks it out of us, whatever it is, and we just don't do anything with it. You need to practice it. It's like playing tennis, and you need to be out there on the court all day, every day. The only way you get better at it is to practice it. So working with animals, the way that we communicate with animals is that we impress images, thoughts, feelings, tastes, sounds. We impress that over to them. Maybe not all at the same time, depending on what we're asking them or what's going on. And the way they answer that, how they communicate back to us, is not by looking at us with their big, doggy, beautiful, sad eyes, and we just kind of going, oh, look, they look so sad. They send back to us the same way we send out. So we receive images or thoughts or feelings, that sense of knowing, I know, or tastes or smells or sounds, whatever it is that the conversation is, as to what the information is that comes back to us. So we are all wired intuitively, and some of us have stronger senses than others. I'm quite fortunate, I suppose, that I have very strong inner vision. My vision is inside my head, if I put it that way. It's like a running TV screen inside my mind. Some people see it outside themselves. I don't see intuitive information come outside myself. It's all in here. So I hear a word, a sentence, a paragraph. I see a still image or a running video. I taste all of the sensations or the tastes on behalf of an animal. If they're trying to talk about nutrition, if they're missing and I'm trying to taste, what's around them, if there's water body there and I'm trying to taste, is it fresh? Is it brackish? Is it salty? So they send that back in the same way that you send it out, but you need to be open to receiving it. So that's just kind of, there's a whole course in intuitive development, which occasionally I run. And they're available everywhere. If you're really interested to hone your intuition, I'd highly recommend doing a development workshop, because it's useful not just to communicate with animals. It's useful for absolutely every aspect of your life. Now, Leanne Kelly, I'm just going to drop you in here. You would love to learn to communicate with animals. I can intuitively feel when something is wrong, but haven't been able to develop from there. Yes, and that's something. Feel free, everyone, to drop your questions in as if you're on here. That is something that many people strive for. They know that something's wrong. They feel it somewhere, somehow, but where to develop from there. And Leanne, this is kind of exactly what I'm talking about, is to go and do an intuitive development workshop, because it can really help you understand what intuition looks like in general, but also what intuition looks like for you. Because you may see things differently. You may be very clairvoyant. You may have the inner vision, but it may be completely different to the way that I see. So, and some things, unfortunately, we can ask for information to come in literally, but sometimes things come through symbolically. Sometimes things come through as a metaphor. So you need to really, this is where I say practice, 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 because you need to learn it, and then you need to practice it. You need to practice it enough that you can then trust it. So animal communication to learn, I have an online course. I actually have a special coming up for tonight for anyone that's interested. I'll come to that a little bit later. But I have an online animal communication course. It's self-paced. You've got 12 months to do it, and it's a foundation level. So it goes right into the intuition and the senses, the telepathy side, and how to do that. So you can start to learn what you're feeling. What does that actually mean? Because that's the bit that's missing for you. It's like, I feel something. It could be this, it could be that. I'm not really sure, and I don't really know where to go from there, and how to get that information to really drill into it and look deeper into that actual problem. So awesome question, Leanne. Thank you. Lives are really interesting, aren't they? Because you feel like you waffle. I mean, I waffle anyway. So if I'm waffling, my apologies, everybody. And then I get distracted with, questions coming up on the side there. And please feel free to keep doing that, because this is where everybody gets the benefit, is to ask the questions. And if you're on replay, feel free to put your question there. And if I can get back to it at some time, I will do that. So another question which came in yesterday: do animals really understand what we're saying? I have that one quite a lot actually, and there's a lot of of course, there's a lot of skeptics out there. So the skeptics will say it's a bit of nonsense, but yes, they do. At a soul level, animals understand exactly what you're saying. So yes, the answer to that question is they do understand you, and what they do with, if you're trying to talk to them, like I said before, they will understand you. But if you're trying to get them to do something that they don't want to do, it doesn't mean they're going to follow your instruction or any of those types of things. Now, if you're just telling them that you love them and, welcome back from being outside and doing whatever you're doing outside, and it's just a little hello and that sort of thing, then of course they understand that as well. So they do understand us. And this is where when you do animal communication training, you're more learning the soul to soul connection. So the animal communication is talking more to the soul, which is a part of them that really does understand what you're asking of them. And there's a lot of the thing that I love as well about animal communication is some of the answers that you get back from animals, and they are so genuine. Animals are authentic. Humans, we decide whether we want to be authentic or not. Depends who our audience is and what we're up to. We'll decide how we play that out. But animals are always, they are so just genuine and real, and what you see is what you get. That's a great lesson for us because we're not always what we see. So what I find on many occasions is animals will have a lot of information for their people. So they might have they also have, when you connect with them, just get my words out, hello, Tuesday night, when you connect with them and you have an agenda, you've got your list of questions. A lot of people that come to me, there's like 20 questions, and we get through whatever we can depending on how long we've got. And the animal will go straight past the 20 questions and into something completely different. They're not really interested in those 20 questions. I want to talk about this, which is really interesting because when they connect with someone that actually can hear them for the first time, they've just got a lot to get off their chest. So animals will always just go blah. They'll just blur out everything and anything that they need to get out, and then we come back to their questions. But a lot of the time they'll talk about their owners or their pet parents or their guardians or their trainers or whoever's sort of their caretaker. And they know their people so much better than the people know themselves. And I've had cats tell their mothers that through me, mum needs to meditate. She's highly strung. She does this, she does that. She works too hard. She has long days. She's not home till 7 o'clock, and she leaves home at 6 o'clock in the morning. And, they give you all the information. And then they go even one step further and they say, mum needs to do meditation, but she needs to do this form of meditation. She needs to go out. She needs to sit on the side of a cliff and look at the ocean. And she needs to meditate just by observing her breath and watching the ocean. So they are quite particular in, their instruction, what they need, what they want us to do, but they know exactly what's going on with you. They know, it's just something that's coming into mind here that I'm trying to pull out. They know, it was a dog some time ago where the dad was actually quite unwell, but he didn't know about that. He knew he didn't feel well, but he didn't really know what was going on with him. And this is all just coming back to me here now. This was actually a sports person. Now that I'm coming into it, this was a sports person. He was an elite athlete and he was a professional athlete. And his partner had asked if I could do a reading for their dog, but because the dog over the last few weeks had been highly, highly anxious and pacing and, just being a little bit crazy, borderline crazy dog. And so I connected with this dog, and the dog he was just pacing and running around the room and just trying to get everybody's attention. And so what happens is when your animal, when they change behavior out of the blue for no apparent reason, they're most often trying to get a message to you. And this is what was happening here, because this had only been going for 3 weeks. So this dog was going a little bit crazy. Mum and Dad didn't really know what was going on. What I found from this dog was Dad is unwell and he needs to go and have some tests. Now, he'd had many, did I say many? Concussions. So the sport that he played, he was knocked out so many times that he now, this disease has a name, which I can't remember, but he has this problem with his brain. And so every 6 months or so, he would go off and have a brain scan. But he hadn't had one for, I don't know, it was 10 or 12 months. He'd sort of missed the last one or something like that. And this dog was sensing what was going on with Dad's health. Anyway, so it was a bit of a problem. He had to go and have his brain scan and get that sorted out. So there is a lot of things that come up like that. There's a few of them that I just can't put my finger on, but they're really interesting, and it's a great thing to do to observe what's going on with your animals when their behavior starts to go a little bit weird. It may be something that you need to look at for yourself. So really tap in and go, how do I feel? Is there anything strange going on with me at the moment? And then work it out from there. Can energy healing fix a problem? That was a question that I got the other day, but it's one that I have quite often, particularly when people are asking me if I can work on a particular animal for a problem. The answer to that is, can energy healing fix a problem? Absolutely. Miracles can happen, for sure. There are too many factors to answer that question with a yes or no. It's not a yes and no answer. It can, yes, if it's meant to, if the dog or cat or horse or rabbit, or if the animal is open to the healing, if it's a part of their life path that they get healed from that thing. Because sometimes, animals choose how they want to pass, when they're going to pass. They're the same way we do. We choose our life path. They also choose theirs to a degree. So it's a possibility. It's a possibility. And it depends on how we are actually seeing that healing. Like, what do we want from that? What are we expecting? What are we expecting when you have an energy healing for yourself, or when your animal is booked in for an energy healing session with someone? Are you wanting them to be cured of that injury, or cured of cancer, or fixed, or prolong their life? Or what is it? What is your agenda with that? What is your expected outcome? Because I think we need to lose that part and just go in there with a different intention, perhaps, because animals receive healing very well. They will receive it. They will process it in a way that they're meant to process it. It will be received in a way that they're meant to receive it. So I think that's good enough. If you're doing an energy healing for an animal that is coming into the last stages of life, that can help their transition be nice and smooth and free, as opposed to sometimes when our animals come to that point, we get filled with grief and sadness and stress, and we hold on, and we don't want them to die, and they must stay with us, and it's all very stressful, not just for you, but it's stressful for your animal, and they can hold on for you, and it can make it challenging for them to kind of transition smoothly and to get to where they need to go, into their little animal heaven, if you like, to get there. So keep that in mind when your animals are passing, that try and keep your emotion as much as you can to yourself. I know that's not easy. Try and suck it into the solar plexus and keep your energy field nice and tight to your body, so you're not spreading all of your sadness and hysteria and all of that sort of stuff all around your animal that's in the last stages of life. I just want to check here that we're all good. No questions coming in. Feel free, everyone, just to throw your questions in. Questions are good. We all learn from each other. I had a dog that had a cruciate ligament problem, and this is, I'm just sort of sharing this with all of you because everybody can be an energy healer. And so if you have an animal that is unwell or is injured or something like that, ask them. And yes, you might think you're making up the answer that you're receiving, but maybe you're not. Ask them what they need. Is there any energy that they need to come into their body or their energy field? Because if you remember that we are all energy, everything is energy. So color is energy. A flower is energy. A frog is energy. I had a little dog who had torn a cruciate ligament running on beach sand. Very common too, by the way, cruciate ligaments on soft beach sand. Be very careful with your dogs out there, my friends. And this little dog had torn a cruciate ligament and was the vet was trying not to do surgery. They were just going to see what happened with that. And in the meantime, while we were waiting, Mum wanted to do some energy healing. So a part of that is I was asking this little dog, you know, as we got to the end, is there anything else that you need? Do you need any other energy to help you with your healing? And I got this image of a cocoon and, you know, the actual cocoon itself, not what was in it. And so I brought the energy of that cocoon in and I wrapped it around the knee of this little dog where the cruciate ligament had blown out. And we wrapped it and rewrapped it and rewrapped it. And I was just guided, just intuitively guided to how to do that and for how long and, you know, exactly what to do with it. We did that. And then I asked, is there anything more? And I was shown a cobweb. So all of these things were, you know, sort of strengthening, well, you know, infused that cobweb energy into that cruciate ligament for that little dog as well. Now, it didn't heal the dog. The dog didn't get a brand new cruciate ligament the next day. It doesn't work like that, but it can certainly, it added in some support, and we give the dog what he needs or she needs, and they can just feel better within themselves. And if you know yourself, if your mood is better, if you're emotionally and mentally more sound, then you can heal your own injuries and illnesses as well. So it's the same thing. So if you have an animal that is experiencing a problem of some kind, just close your eyes, take a few breaths. You know, you might even want to put your hand on them if they're with you. If they're not, that's okay too. And just ask them, what is it that you need from me that can help with your healing or that can help you feel better? And then just with your eyes closed, because it takes the senses away, that you're not getting distracted and making up answers. Just see what comes in. Do you get an image of something? You know, like I did with the cobweb. Do you get an image of yellow light? Maybe you need to pour some yellow light into an organ that's struggling, because the color has a frequency, as does an organ. So you're trying to get the organ to increase or decrease its frequency to create healing. So using light is very powerful. You know, do you get another animal? Does something come in as a vision, or do you get a word, green frog? That's 2 words. But do you get the word as a thought in your mind, or do you just know? You just know something. So, you know, work with your animals as well. Very, very handy. How are we going out there, everyone? 20 to 8. We'll come in for maybe another 20 minutes. So if any of you've got questions, jump on in, share the love. I'm just going to work through the questions that I've been sent here so we can keep working through those. And I've already done that. Can I change my animal's behavior with animal communication? Yes and no. Completely dependent on whether the animal wants to change. Animal communication, as I said at the beginning, can get you the why. Why are they behaving that way? And then there's some tools and tips and things like that as to, what you can do for some behavioral issues. But it's not necessarily, animal communication is the conversation, and an animal that doesn't want to change won't change for anybody. So sometimes it just comes to management. We just manage our animals. With medical intuition, can you diagnose? That's a really good question. Of course you can. You can just say, your dog has stomach cancer. Should you? No, you shouldn't do that, because you're not, unless you're a vet or a practitioner, if you're working medical intuition with people, which I do also. I don't diagnose. The way medical intuition works for me, and this is different for everybody, and it's different for everybody because I am not a doctor or a vet, but I have had a background of understanding and learning parts of the human body and movement and the organs. And I've worked a little bit with Chinese medicine and working through the emotional parts of the body as well. So, and meridians and that type of thing. So medical intuition for me will be different to someone that has really had nothing to do with the body. They may see shapes and colors and things like that. So what happens is I see medical intuition almost like a last resort. So you've been to every vet or doctor, every vet under the sun for this particular problem that no one can seem to find out what's wrong. And then you come to a medical intuitive. That's just my way of seeing it. Of course, you can go straight to a medical intuitive and then go to a vet. That's okay too. When someone's been to a vet and they've come to me, I will go through the entire body from head to toe. So I go through each of the organs and I have a look at the function. I have a look and see if it's overactive or underactive. I'll see whatever I can see. If there's a problem with it, I'll try and determine what that looks like. More describe it than label it and say, you have sclerosis of the liver, because that's really kind of a diagnosis. And that's inappropriate, especially when you don't know. Because unless you go in there and you do scans and you have a vet or a surgeon that goes in there and checks things out, you actually can't say 100% certain that this is sclerosis of the liver. I'm just pulling that as an example. But I'll go through each of the organs and I'll have a look at them, and I'll have a look at the emotional organ. So I'll have a look at the liver and I'll have a look at the physical function. I'll have a look at the liver and I'll have a look at the emotional function. And it is a storage depot for anger and frustration. So I'll have a look at that. And if there is an emotional link into some of the organs, then I'll try and work through as to where did that come from? Why is there anger being stored in the liver? Or why is there this deep sadness in the lungs and the heart? Or we have this massive sense of fear and anxiety and things in the digestive system and the kidneys. And where has that come from? Why is that there? So I'll go through all of the physical, all of the emotional organs. I'll go through the blood. I'll go through the circulatory system, the respiratory system. I'll have a look at the hormones if that's relevant. I'll go through the musculoskeletal system. So if there's injuries and things like that, I'll go in and have a look at the joints or the paws or the knees, and I'll check out and I'll see how they can, cats and dogs, how they can stretch out their feet or their paws, and how does their tail, horses as well, anyone that has a tail, I'll see how that's connecting into the spine. And if it's not connecting into the spine, then I will have a look as to, well, where does the problem come from? And so I like the idea of working in with a vet, or working in with someone that will then take that information back to the vet or the surgeon or wherever they're going. So it's not a standalone process, works really well together. Nutritional stuff, I'm always in the digestive system. I will look at the stomach, then I'll go into the duodenum, the small intestine, the large intestine, and I'll sort of trace through and see how that's faring, what that looks like, and what the problem is. And we, like I said at the beginning, nutrition is a huge problem for domesticated animals. Then I'll get some information on, we'll work together. It's like, what are you feeding them? Give me a list. What exactly are you feeding them? And then we'll go through and it's like, okay, well, this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't. So we can really fine tune what you're feeding them. And nutrition can solve so many problems, so many problems, from behavioral disorders to just, skin conditions and vomiting, diarrhea, all of those things, lethargy, all of that. So that's how medical intuition works for me. I might just see a shape or a darkness. Like I said, I'm not a vet, so I don't know everything. And not everything has been researched. So I don't know everything. Let's just say that. So with the way I work, you have to be shown in a way that you understand. And in a way that I understand, I have to have seen it, experienced it, tasted it, smelt it, watched it on television, read it in a book, whatever. I have to have some kind of connection with the information. And if I don't, then it can't be shown to me in a way I understand. So I might just get like a shadow. I might see just a color or a shape, and that means zero to me. But I can share that information because that might mean much more to a vet than it would to me. Same with missing animals. Sometimes I get smells. If an animal's gone missing and I'm trying to smell where, some of the things that are around them, I will know that there is a smell to sense, but I can't pick what it is. So it just becomes this block. There is a smell. And then you sort of go through questions. Is it sweet? Is it savory? Is it salty? Is it, does it smell like diesel? Is it a car product? But if I haven't smelt something before, I can't smell that thing. But I know that there's a scent that I can't pin. And then I will, if I do end up being able to smell that at some point, if they found the animal and they said, I was right next to this, I don't know, so it was next to this place that has this really weird smell, and then I was able to find out what that was, that would then be in my database of smells for future missing animals or wherever that smell needs to come up. So that is medical intuition, my friends. Whoever asked that question, I don't recall. I didn't write their name down. For the people that want to know how to get better at it, how to get better at animal communication, that's an excellent question. And we've sort of covered that already because it really just, it boils down to, practice. There's so many books out there, dozens and dozens of books on how to do animal communication. You can firstly just go and buy a book, Amazon or Kindle or whatever it is, and read that and practice some of the things, the techniques and things that they share with you, because most of those books out there now, they do share with you how to do animal communication. You can do that. And if you're really diligent and you practice and you bring up all your neighbors and all your neighbors' neighbors and friends and family and practice on their animals, you will get some sense of it, and you'll start to, you can get really good at it just that way. Buy yourself a book. You can also do a course, a live course or an online course. As I mentioned before, I do have an online course. It's a foundation level. It's pretty much just my live course as an online course. It's self-paced. It's 12 months. And, well, you can do it as quick as you want. You could do it in 3 days, but it's available for 12 months before you lose access to it. So you've got plenty of time to work through it. And then you practice and practice and practice. And I think one of the things is that you have to be willing to fail. Because if you're not willing to fail, you'll never learn from your failures. That is the best way to learn. I'm still learning now. Every day is a school day, as they say. So keep practice. Get as many people as you can that can give you animals to read. Preferably animals that you don't know so well, because you will bring in your own bias with that. So if you've got friends of friends that are willing to, play around with it with you, do that. And it can just be a photo. You don't need to be live with an animal. Sometimes it's actually more distracting to be with a living animal that is moving around, and they don't come and sit in front of you and make eye contact and nod and shake their head and do all those things when you're communicating with them. They'll be off out the paddock, or they'll be scratching their bum in the corner somewhere. So sometimes when you're starting out, it is much easier to read from a photo. So you can do this with anyone all around the world. So get started, practice, try not to have an agenda and a desired outcome and judge and all of those things, and really be prepared to fail. Many of us aren't very good at failing. And when we fail, we think that we are a failure, therefore we are useless at something and we shouldn't be doing it anymore. That is not the case. You have to fail to learn. You have to fail to grow. So I hope that answered your question. At this point, I'm just going to drop in here this little banner right there. It'll scroll through a few times. I have 20% off until the end of July, my online training. So it's $189 US normally. Now the exchange rate in Australia is pretty crappy. Unfortunately, it makes travel very expensive. This page, I know many of you say, why is it in US dollars when you're in Australia? Well, it's in US dollars because I can only access US dollars. So that's what it is. And it doesn't matter. We're kind of used to it anyway. So roughly, based on today's exchange rate, it's around 275 Australian dollars for the full price. After the 20% off, it's 150 US, 220 Australian. So xe.com will give you an exchange rate if you want to check that. It is available until the end of July. So jump on in, and I will, that's one thing I didn't do, I will put on the Facebook page the actual link to the course. So if I forget that, can someone remind me? I should remember. Hopefully I'll remember. Worthwhile. The more people communicating with their animals, the more animals are getting understood from a higher perspective. And by that, I mean not just by observation and what you think that you know about your animal. You can hear them tell you what they need from you. I'll give you an example of that, actually. There's a couple of examples. One of my cats died about 18 months ago. He was an awesome cat. His name was Jack. I absolutely loved this cat to bits. I loved all of my cats and dogs, but Jack was just special. There was something about him that I really connected with, and I had a very strong connection with animal communication with him. I have his sister as well. She's still with me, but she's completely different in communication. So I could just show him through images how I wanted him to lie on me, next to me, come over here. I'd show him walk across the top of the lounge and then jump down and lie on my chest. And he'd think about it for a minute and he'd do that. Or if he'd come and jump into bed with us, he would lie across. So we're this way and he's lying across, and he'd take up way too much space. So I'd say to him, can you turn around and can you lie the same direction that I'm lying on my left side? So he's on the right side of the bed. And he would do that. And he was just great. This is what you can do with animal communication. He was mostly obedient in that sense. I was changing his behavior. But he was really sick. He had kidney cancer and he was coming to the end of his days. And a few weeks before he passed, he told me that he was passing very soon, and he wanted to pass of his own accord. He didn't want to be euthanized. He wanted to die himself. And he was going to go under this particular hedge, and that was what he was going to do. And so it got closer and closer and closer. And every day I'd check in with him. Do you need assistance? Are you still wanting to pass by yourself? Yes, yes, yes. Do you need anything from me? I'm very thirsty, because his kidneys weren't functioning anymore. He was very, very thirsty. And he'd tell me, I'm very thirsty. I can't get enough water. I'm thirsty. I'm dehydrated and all those things. And so I'd put a bit of water extra into his food, which still just wasn't enough. It was very difficult to watch, I have to say. But You know, he would every day I'd just ask him, "What do you need from me today?" "Well, I can't walk up the stairs anymore. Can you carry me?" And that type of thing. So when it came to the day that he actually passed, I checked with him in the morning if he needed anything, and then at some point through that day, he asked for assistance. So he changed his mind from wanting to pass himself to needing assistance. And there was no pressure from us to make that any other way, to make it comfortable for me. That I didn't want to wait around for him to die by himself. I wanted to help him and put him out of his suffering. He wasn't suffering at all. It looked like he was in a lot of pain actually, but he wasn't suffering at all. It was very peaceful. So it was a great thing that I was able to do, to communicate with him and ask him what he needed to come into the end of his time. There was another little story that I was just going to tell you then, and it's just slipped my mind. What was that? Oh, that's what it was. He'd passed and his sister went missing, and I wasn't concerned about her. She's very, she's very homely, I guess. She goes to a certain degree. She'll go out into the yard, she'll go over to the neighbour's fence, but she'll always come back, and she'll always be back before dark. That's kind of my instruction to them, don't go far, be back before dark. And so she had gone missing, which was very unusual. And so I asked, pulled out all of my missing animals investigation hats, and I just didn't feel like I needed to go on this massive big hunt and start printing flyers and, get people involved in this. By midnight, I'm now a little bit concerned because I'd been out looking for her. Wasn't just sitting on the lounge eating popcorn. I had been out looking for her, and I still just wasn't very concerned. So I went to bed, and I'm lying there, and Jack, who obviously has passed, I brought him through, and I said to him, "Can you help me with Rizzy? Do you know where she is?" And he said, "Go out to the back hedge, or go out to the back fence." And I thought, oh, it's now coming up 1 a.m. And I thought, oh, it's dark and it's cold and it's 1 a.m. and okay, I'll do it. And he said, "You have to go out there now because it's quiet and you will hear her." And so I've got my torch and I've gone out and I'm looking under the hedges and I'm looking under the hedges. And then I hear him say, "Stop, be quiet." And so I stopped and I was quiet, and I heard this noise in our garden shed. Now, I had asked my husband if he'd looked in the garden shed, and he had. I hadn't looked in the garden shed. How obvious is that? Look in your garden shed, people. Look in everything when your cats go missing. He'd looked in the garden shed. I hadn't looked in the garden shed. There she was in the garden shed. She was banging around, but we'd been out there as well. I'd been out there. I just hadn't opened the door, and there was no noise. But that's because dinner was cooking around for the neighbourhood, and there was just general noise going on. So you can use your past pets to help you with things as well, which is very handy. So that's what I do. Whenever I have something that I need, I might just ask Jack, if I'm looking for a missing animal, "Can you help me today with that or not?" He may or he may not. Just the last couple of questions that I'm just going to cover off here, because we've been on here for an hour now, and I think we're just about through. There are a few left, but I'll just cover these ones off. Are the messages real? When people ask you to communicate with their animals and they're asking, and this is also for you if you're communicating with your own animals, are the messages real? This is what I know. Animal communication is like lightning. It'll be really fast. So if you're communicating with one of your animals and you've decided, "I'm going to actually have a little chat to Charlie and I'm going to ask him such and such," you've already got an answer If you're getting information, you've got an image that's flashed into your mind, or you've got a word that's flashed into your mind while you're formulating your question, that is real. Animal communication is quick. So it often comes in before you even think of your question. So the other thing that you'll find, and I find this nearly every day, when an answer is really surprising to you. It's like you just did not expect to hear that coming out of their mouth. When it's like that, that is genuine. When you get to know your intuitive landscape, you will know what is real and what is not. For the people that are very heavy on the analysis, and I am one of those, you can bring your thoughts in and take over your intuition very easily. Be very top heavy in the brain. And so I have learnt how to separate, how to sort of get out of my head and step into my intuition. Now, having that analytical side is very useful for investigation. So you can do all the intuiting, and then you can put that to the side, and then you can try and connect the dots with the analysis. So, yes, the messages are real, but it really depends on who's asking, who it is, and how much work you're doing with it, and how much you trust what you're doing with it. So trust is a huge thing with animal communication when you're starting out. You don't trust it. And that's where courses are really good, because you start to get to know what you're looking at, what your landscape looks like. And you get to practice with other people. And that's really helpful, because you've got people that know their animals and they can validate what you're seeing while you're learning. And that's what you need. You need to validate what you're seeing while you're learning. I had a lady on one of the courses, and this was really interesting. It was actually good. But this is something that comes up. We were reading, as a group, we were reading a cat, and I don't remember what the question, I don't know what we were doing. It was just a general asking the cat questions and tuning into them. And she really struggled with that. And what came up, she really struggled to connect with the cat. But what came up with that was she doesn't like cats. So that's a really important thing too. So have a think about when you're struggling to connect with your friend's animal that you're practicing with. You need to be really neutral. You need to love the animals and be very open to all, because your own belief systems, whether it's a religious belief or an upbringing belief, or I don't like cats belief. Another one that came up in that same session was around nutrition, because food was not important to her. She was not interested in food. So checking in on nutrition was very difficult, because it's not part of her MO. So it's all of those things that can really throw you. Now, I just want to finish off with one more thing. So again, just throw any last minute questions, throw them in there. I want to finish off with one more thing, because this person asked me this a few weeks ago, and I wrote it down, totally forgotten about it for tonight. Anxiety is a huge thing with cats and dogs and horses and rabbits and guinea pigs and all animals. And what you can do about it. There are so many things you can do for anxiety that is not medication. And, really, we don't want to medicate our animals. That's kind of the last ditch effort, I think. So what can you do for them? Again, we may be just coming into managing a problem, depending on how deep-seated it is. And, a lot of rescue animals and animals that have had a terrible start to life, this can be a real problem. And that can just come down to management. But there's some things that you can Google. You can do all these things yourself. You can learn them. You can do courses. You can just watch YouTubes, and you can figure it out and practice on your own animals. The first thing that I want to mention is emotional freedom technique. It is often called thought field therapy or simple energy technique. It doesn't matter. It's the same kind of concept. EFT, TFT, SET, and any and every variation on that theme. So this is tapping on acupuncture points around the body, and you can tap on your animal if they'll let you, or you can tap on yourself as them. So you can use, be the surrogate kind of thing. So you need to kind of become them energetically. You just tap on them, you tap through the problem. There is so much information and YouTube's on this. At some point, I'll do a course on it as well. Very good for fear, abandonment, leash aggression, thunder, fear of sounds and noises, behavioral issues between animals. Gosh, there's just so many things. This started out for humans, but it's as equally effective with animals as it is for people, if not more so, because animals are kind of easier to treat than humans. So we're just changing the energetic structure. Anger and fear and aggression and all those things is just energy. You just want to transmute it into something else. So EFT, very good. Emotion code is another one. We're bringing the subconscious programs forward into the conscious mind to release. So emotion code, Google it, look that up. That's also for humans, but there is an animal version of that as well. I've done a lot of that on my dog. My dog was a throwaway farm dog that no one wanted. He was in the local paper, and we bought him. He's 16 now, but he was anxious right from the minute we got him, and we've worked with his anxiety ever since. So his management, we have got him to a point, and changed him quite a lot. But he's also in that management side of things. But there's tools that when he's in that space that I can bring some of these out. Flower essences, very good. Flower essences you can put on the coat, part the hair, put on the coat. You can squirt it in their mouth. You can put it in their food. I don't like to put it in water, to be honest, because cats don't drink water and dogs won't drink a whole bowl of water most likely. So I want to get it in there. They're cheap, $20, $25. Shamanic healing for pets, animal Reiki, all of the energy healing. They can be great for anxiety. Tellington Tea Touch, Linda Tellington Jones. She runs courses. She's got a lot of information. There are people that have so many YouTubes and videos of how to use her, how to perform some of her techniques. Acupuncture, Chinese herbs. There are so many things that you can use for different situations. So there's some of my hot tips for anxiety. I hope that helps you. And I just really want to just reiterate that you can do these things yourself. You don't have to go and spend $1,000 to go and do some, I don't know. You wouldn't spend $1,000 on medication, but you might. But there are things that you can do yourself without having to go and find someone. You don't have to find a therapist. You just Google it. And in this situation, I think Dr. Google has a place, because with, flower essences and EFT and Tellington Tea Touch, they are only going to be a benefit to your animal. All right, my friends. Thank you very much for dropping in. I probably rattled on and, made no sense whatsoever, but there you go. One day I might make sense. It's nighttime and my brain kind of stops about 3:00. Now, Amanda, I just want to come back to you here. Let's just finish off with you. Let me just read this again. You have a rescue dog. Was he sent to you from your dog and your horse that you lost? Let's just have a look at that. No, I don't believe so. That does happen, Amanda. So that is actually a really good question. That does happen. Let me just tune into your rescue dog and just see how he ended up. See if he's got anything to say. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you so much for dropping by and sharing your time with me. Just quiet here for a moment while I'm just having a look at Amanda's dog. He waited for you. Okay, that's interesting. So he waited for the space. It's like he lined you up, and I want to say 2 months beforehand. So when you lost your dog and your horse, if that was not expected by you, it was expected by your dog and your horse and your rescue dog. So I suppose in some way you could say that they sent him to you, but they seem very separate. He knew when he was coming into you, but he needed to wait for that space to be available, for you to be available to receive him. So I hope that answers your question. That's a pretty cool answer, I think. And I'm very sorry to hear about your dog and your horse within 3 weeks. That's pretty quick, isn't it? Yeah. Your rescue dog is just, I'll just pause there because your rescue dog is just starting to have something to say here. I'm getting an image of around the clock, and it's your dog is saying you work around the clock. So if you work too much and work too hard and you don't stop, it's time to put your pens down and have a break and have a rest and reset. He's just saying to you, you need to stop and you need to reset. And this also feels like it relates a little bit to losing your dog and your horse. I'm not too sure how long ago that was and how long you've had your rescue dog, but I feel there's still some deep-seated grief in there within you around your dog and your horse, and that perhaps you may be keeping busy as a way to sort of push that over to the side. So if you haven't really sat in and celebrated their life and worked through the grief of that, now may be the time to consider that. Your rescue dog is awesome. What a great dog. A little bit of anxiety there, but so there's so much you can do, with your little dog. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amanda. Very interesting. Very interesting. Look, while we're here, does anyone have a question for their animal? Let's do a little bit of animal communication. Amanda, if you're there and you want if you want to continue that or have some feedback on that, feel free to drop a line. But while we're just finishing off, if anyone is anyone wanting to throw their animal in there, I'm just going across here just to see if we've got anyone with questions here. All right, last call. Anyone? I'll give you 30 seconds. You've got 30 seconds to put a question down for your pet or your animal in the house. And if you have any other questions that you might want to ask that I didn't cover off tonight, or that I didn't cover off succinctly, that's probably more to the point. I can get a little bit off the Richter there. I'm going to also grab the link to the online course. So don't forget, we've got 20% off until the end of June. I'll just grab that link and I'm going to put that in the comments on that Facebook page for anyone that wants to do that. So there we go. All right, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on replay, thank you for coming in on replay, and I will do this again sometime soon. If you have questions for the next Q&A, maybe coming up soon, we might just have an animal communication night, have half an hour of chatting with animals. That might be fun. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night or great day wherever you are, and I will chat to you soon.